Okay, another distributive bargaining tactics is to reveal a deadline. So negotiators who reveal the deadlines normally could speed the concessions or could speed the solution to the negotiations from their negotiating counterparts, making them to reconsider the positions. And also, even though negotiators do not think that these tactics by giving a deadline could work, is actually in reality, according to textbook, negotiators who reveal deadlines do better than those who didn't take a step to reveal the deadlines or to make an offer, for example. So how the two bargaining strategies can be utilized within the same negotiations episodes. So early on the episodes, integrative strategies can be used. So let's say you have a negotiation series. So maybe in the beginning you can try with the integrative strategies of bargaining, and later in the episode you can try distributive strategies of bargaining. So condition necessary for integrative bargaining of negotiation to succeed, including first party who are open with the parties who are open with the informations and candid about their concerns would be more successful compared to those without. And a sensitivity by both party to the needs to the other needs is also important if you want to involve in the integrative bargaining, because integrative bargaining engage in the win-win solutions. So it is important also, in order to be successful in the integrative bargaining, is to have the ability to trust one another, and also willingness by both parties to maintain flexibility. That's mean to give up their own interest and also to just come up with the same interest, so that both will get something good out of these negotiations. However, all these conditions not actually exist in most organizations, so it's very difficult for integrative bargaining to be successful without all these elements. So in reality, it's very difficult to find all these in the organizations. So employees' personal characteristics and perceived accountability also play a role in whether negotiations come to the integrative solutions. So because integrative solutions or bargaining need to trust one another, so employees' personal characteristic or negotiators' personal characteristics and perceived accountability of the negotiators also play a role for achieving integrative solutions. And to be effective, negotiation strategies also may depend on the regulatory focus of the parties involved and the accountability of the third party as a supervisor. So individuals who are more likely to use integrative bargainings normally is depend, especially when the other parties express emotional ambivalence. That means doubt. If the other parties expressing their emotional doubts, then individuals are more likely to use integrative bargaining. So this consider as integrated two bargaining strategies within one negotiations episode. So start with clarify the needs. So it mentions in the previous slide that early on need to use integrative, and then later on need to use distributive strategy. So as you can see here, the first 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 are using integrative, and the last 2 are using a distributive. So integrative, the first steps is to clarify the needs, and then second steps is to articulate the interest, focus on the interest, and then the third one avoids early compromise. Avoiding compromising too early, as they are often leads to suboptimal. So if the parties compromise the solutions early at this stage, so they may not be able to achieve the best solutions that maybe give advantage for both parties. And then the fourth one is using a distributive bargaining style, where the negotiators need to set high goal. One interests are clarified, then it is time to set the goals. And last is distributive. Remember, distributive, either you lose or you win. So here, slice of the pie. Now that the pie has been expanded, so that's mean that the parties will get a smaller part of the pie. So if the one of the party want to get more, so they have to avoid compromising in the early stage, or if they have to make initial offer, and also they have to use anchoring buyers, and then and that's how in order to get more pie. If not, so if they're using integrative, so everyone will get all the parties will get the same pie, but here the most successful party will get more pie, the less successful will get less pie, or that means they get less benefit or less advantage to within as a from these negotiations that takes place between the parties. So compromise might be the worst enemies of those in the negotiations. Uh, the reason is that compromising reduces the pressure to bargain integratively. So if you compromise in the beginning, you lost this kind of ability to bargain, to get more pie out of the whole cake. So if you or your opponents cave in easily, so if the other parties cave in, that means giving up easily, it doesn't require anyone to be creative to reach the solution or to reach the settlements. There's people ending up settling for less than they could obtain if they forced to consider the other party interests and trade off some issues between them and be creative. So in other words, compromising, even though it's maybe is a win-win agreement, but still is considered as worst enemy, because by moving forwards into reaching this line, instead of just stopping at here, reaching toward this line, it actually increased the abilities for the settlements to consider other parties' interests and then trade off issues. That mean give and take some other issue that shouldn't be discussed or shouldn't be become the concerns of both of the parties, and they can come up with the creative and innovative solutions important for the negotiations for both parties. So these are the 5 steps of the negotiation process. It starts with the preparations and planning. So at this stage, it is important for the parties involved in negotiations to do some homework to Google information, to check for the information. So the information used is important to develop the strategies for bargaining to get the more advantage out of the negotiations. And next stage is to define the ground rules. So here, when we talk about definitions of the ground rules, talks about procedures of the negotiations, such as who will do the negotiatings, where will it take place, what time constraint, and all the rules and regulations, requirement, procedure, and so on. Next stage is to clarify and justifications. Here at this stage, the exchange, explain and amplify, clarify, bolster and justify of the original demand is being set or being given here to be discussed. And next stage is bargaining and problem solving. After clarifying and justifying the original demands of the both party in negotiations, next is to bargain and to solve the problem. When we talk about their bargaining, we talk about negotiations. That means we are willing to give and take something. So this is the actual give and takes in trying to hash out the agreement. So to come up with the agreements, both party need to trade in something, trade off some things, or give and takes involved in give and takes solutions or agreements. Last is closure after bargainings and solve the problems. The last part is closure where the negotiations come to the end, and after that is implementation. So here implementations and monitoring still needed. So they have to follow some specific in terms of formal contracts. And sometimes the closure, the end of the negotiations, just nothing more than a handshake. So that's sometimes concluding the negotiations by both party come up with the solutions of, for example, solving the problem, solving the conflict. So they come up with just handshakes and or hugs, for example. So personality traits in negotiations also play an important role because sometimes you can predict the opponent tactics by just looking at their personality traits or personality types. So according to the research, can you predict an opponent's negotiation tactics? If you know some things about his or her personality, the evidence says sort of that's mean kind of that's mean it is also contributing to the predictions of the results. Overall, for example, the personality traits of agreeableness is weakly related to negotiations outcome, because if you always agree, if you have this kind of personality of agreeableness, that means you are not really like to disagree with the terms of the negotiation, so you end up accepting whatever offer that been made or offer by the other parties. Agreeableness and personality more generally affect negotiations outcome. However, depend on the situations also. It's not just it can be said that it's weakly related to negotiation outcome, but it's also depend on the situations. So the importance of being extroverted in negotiations. Extroverted mean you are willing to give your opinions. You are brave in giving your opinions. You are talkative. You are social life in terms of ability to express your own ideas, your own. So these extroverted kind of personality normally will help negotiators in dealing or voicing up their terms in terms of negotiations. So according to this also, extroverted individual, they are also assertive, they are also enthusiastic. So the negotiations, however, also depend on how the other party reacts to someone who is assertive. So if negotiators have this kind of personality, assertive and enthusiastic, which is belong to the extroverted personalities type, so this could improve, I believe this could help in achieving the terms on behalf of the party, on the behalf of the organization, if the negotiators is representing the organization. Research also suggests that intelligence predict negotiations effectiveness, but as with personality, the effects aren't especially strong. So overall, based on this, personality traits is very important, but it's just weakly related to negotiations. So it's not really strong. So even though the research saying that agreeableness is weakly related to negotiations and extroversion is more related to negotiations, especially in terms of effectiveness in achieving the negotiations bargaining. However, research indicate that the link is not really strong. So we can just make a small or weak conclusions about the influence of personality traits in negotiations. Moods also play important role. Influence moods or emotions can influence negotiations, but the way they do depends on the types of negotiations. So moods and emotions can affect the individual or negotiators in the negotiations bargaining. However, it also depends on the negotiation type, whether it is integrative bargaining or whether it is distributive bargaining. Moving on to cultures in negotiations.